What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video, and welcome to your stimulus package update and daily news report. So today we got a lot of good news. There's good news happening right now. According to reports, the Senate today will vote on the government funding bill. We also know the House, if the Senate passes this bill, the House will take up this vote later on today as well. And reports indicate that the House will vote on the $1.2 trillion bipartisan bill today as well. Now that is the good news. Well, we also obviously have bad news as well. But what I want to address today, first, there is looking like there's going to be more of a push to get additional stimulus, whether it's a stimulus check or extending the child tax credit payments, the increased earned income tax credit, right? All these different things. It looks like there's going to be more of a push for those things in the upcoming $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill. The bad part is, right now, we don't know if that $3.5 trillion bill is even going to pass. Here's what we do know. What we know right now is that, yes, the Senate, according to Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer yesterday, or last night, he said that the Senate will take up the vote for the government funding bill today. That means if this passes, it gets rid of that obstacle, and then the Senate, the House of Representatives, can move on to the next thing. Okay, so this morning, the Senate will vote on this bill. Expectations are it is going to pass because unlike the bill that the House passed last week for the government funding bill and the extension or pretty much the suspension of the debt ceiling through December of 2022, unlike that bill, the Senate decided we're just not going to discuss the debt ceiling yet. So they obviously have other plans to do something with that later on, but they are going to keep the government funded. This means the government will be funded through December 3rd, 2021, which also means lawmakers will have to discuss this funding additionally in the next couple of months. So again, the talks aren't over. It's just, we're just going to kick the can down the road. So that's what's going to happen. This will provide billions of dollars for emergency disaster relief, and it will provide billions of dollars to Afghan refugees. Also, again, the difference, it does not include a debt ceiling suspension or increase. And this is why this is good news, because experts are anticipating this bill to pass. Here's the only wrinkle. There's one wrinkle in the discussions at this time. According to reports out this morning, Republicans want to include $1 billion for the Iron Dome in Israel. That's what they're saying. So they want to not only do the government funding bill, the billions for emergency disaster relief and for Afghan refugees, but also $1 billion for the Iron Dome. Well, this could actually cause some issues with progressives, not in the Senate. This bill could pass in the Senate. However, some of the people that might vote against this bill would be in the House of Representatives. So I don't think this has too many issues. I think that the $1 billion for the Iron Dome could get some pushback from progressives, but it would get pushback in the House, not the Senate. So I think this is going to pass. I don't think there's much going to hold this up, but as we see, when it passes, what happens, what is actually included, I will bring you that update later on today. I might do a third video today, somewhere in the middle of the day, just so that at the end of the day, we don't have all these big reports. So just want to fill you in on that. But the good news, getting the government funded now opens up the door for other things. We know we got the debt ceiling. We know we got the $1.2 trillion bill, which is going to be voted on today. Then we obviously got the $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill as well. Here's what I can tell you. The House is going to vote on the $1.2 trillion bipartisan bill today. However, there's progressives that are currently saying they will tank this bill if it goes for a vote. But Nancy Pelosi made a promise. Nancy Pelosi said even a month ago that this bill will go for a vote by December 27th, and the bills will be passed by October 1st, Well, today's the last day of September. If the bill is not voted on today, there's no way it's going to pass by tomorrow, right? So here's what I can tell you. Nancy Pelosi is bringing up this bill for a vote. However, her, and at least the words coming out of her office are that she doesn't have the votes. She's going to do whatever she can today, throughout the first part of today, to try to draw up some support for this vote. However, expectations are that this is not going to pass. If this doesn't pass, then moderates and Republicans will definitely not support a $3.5 trillion bill. Just to give you an idea, there are provisions within the $3.5 trillion bill that Republicans support. There's bipartisan support there. So Republicans are saying we do not have to, or Democrats don't have to go into this bill thinking that Republicans would not support anything of it. It's just the entire bill, the size of it, the magnitude, what is included. They don't support all those things. However, one of the big ones, the child tax credit payments, Republicans support as well. Well, here's the news regarding the child tax credit payments. If the $1.2 trillion bill doesn't pass, and again, this is so complicated because when we talk about the child tax credit payments, we got to talk about the $3.5 trillion bill, which it's going into. But in order to get to the $3.5 trillion bill, we got to start with the $1.2 trillion bill. So here's what we know. If the $1.2 trillion bill doesn't pass, which is not expected to, moderates will most likely pull their support for the $3.5 trillion bill. Well, moderates in the House of Representatives, obviously we need them because if the House of Representatives or Democrats lose just actually 4 votes, they can lose 3. If they lose 4 votes, the bill doesn't pass. There's more than 10 moderates in the House of Representatives. It's a problem. Well, in the Senate, that's where the big problem is. Senator Joe Manchin, Senator Kyrsten Sinema, they do not support the size of this bill. So, the $1.2 trillion bill doesn't pass, which both senators helped craft that bill. So, if that bill doesn't pass, they are pretty much going to say, no, I will not vote for that $3.5 trillion bill. They will probably talk with the moderates in the House of Representatives, get them to vote against it as well. Okay? So once that doesn't happen, the child tax credit payments don't happen either. Free community college doesn't happen. Medicare expansion doesn't happen. Right? Elder care doesn't happen. All these things do not happen because of this one issue. So, here's what I can tell you. We need to get the $1.2 trillion bill passed. We also need to get that $3.5 trillion bill passed. The big problem is there's too many progressives in the House of Representatives right now that say they will block the bipartisan bill if Nancy Pelosi brings that to the floor today. So, that's why experts are saying this bill will not pass today. But what you need to understand is that passing the bipartisan bill first, if this was done, progressives are just saying there's no way the $3.5 trillion bill will pass before 2022. There's no way it will pass because that's exactly what Senator Joe Manchin wants. Pass the $1.2 trillion bill. This is really the only reason why this is so important and needs to pass today is because there's a provision for transportation in here. The transportation funding, I think, expires today, or there's a provision that expires today. So that's the only reason why it needs to be included. Outside of that, there could be a standalone bill for that, but there's not. They put it into this bill for infrastructure. Roads, bridges, railways, roadways, things like that, right? That's the only reason why. So it's getting so difficult to negotiate this because lawmakers keep on wrapping and intertwining all these different provisions together and be like, well, this has to go with this, or else this fails or that fails. It really doesn't need to be that complicated. But in order to get bills passed, that's the way it works. I don't know if you remember last year around the same time, Nancy Pelosi was trying to put this this big bill together, right? She's trying to put together this big bill for government funding, trying to put together with the stimulus package, right? And it was going to be this huge bill. Well, it's small compared to what's happening now, but it's going to be this big bill. Well, the problem was we knew if Nancy Pelosi didn't put the government funding bill with the stimulus package, then the stimulus package might not have passed. But the only way it passed was because she put the government funding bill with the stimulus package, which meant, okay, the government was going to be funded for a few more months or a couple more months. That was it. That was it. That was the only reason why it worked, is because they put the two together. And lawmakers are like, well, I have to vote for this bill. I don't like the bill, but I've got to keep the government funded. That was the only reason why. And that's essentially what we're going to get now. So we'll see what happens. But what I can tell you is by passing the government funding bill today, it's going to open up a bunch of new doors. It's also going to close some of the doors, which means it's going to be hard to pass some of the bills. However, it should open up more possibilities, at least moving forward. So we'll see. But regarding the debt ceiling, here's something that you need to know. The U.S. Treasury, Janet Yellen said the other day that the X date is going to be October 18th. That is pretty much 18 days away. Well, today the U.S. Treasury, or actually I think it was yesterday, the U.S. Treasury asked federal agencies to review their spending estimates for October. This is not a normal ask, is to review their spending estimates for a month. This isn't something they normally do. Reason why? Officials are stating that finding out the X date is a very difficult thing to do, and try to determine when this date is going to be and when the government would run out of money. It's very hard to pinpoint the exact date. So Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, is wanting to review all federal agency expenditures and upcoming revenue to get a better idea of when the government will actually run out of money. Because right now, October 18th is the best guess. Experts say that it is expected. This isn't great news. Honestly, this isn't good news. This is horrible news. Experts are now saying that it is expected that the U.S. government will default on their debts. We will pass that X date. We will run out of money. However, it's because Republicans will not help Democrats raise the debt ceiling or suspend the debt limit. They will not do that. So it puts it all on Democrats at this time. Here's the problem. Democrats, they wasted so much time negotiating the infrastructure bills and spending August on recess. The problem is, it does not look like Democrats have enough time to do a debt ceiling increase or a debt limit suspension through a budget reconciliation. It would take about 3 to 4 weeks. And what I told you yesterday was if the bill were to happen yesterday, okay? Or even if it happened today, even if they were to start this whole process today, that means 3 weeks would be October 21st, which would be 3 days after the X date or expected X date. If it's 4 weeks, it would be 10 days after the expected X date. That's if it happened today. If they started the process today. That's the problem. Many experts do not believe there's enough time. And if you ask Senator Dick Durbin, who's the number 2 Democrat in the Senate, he says that his officials, his team is telling him there's not enough time to do a reconciliation, that they have to pass this with bipartisan support. But right now, Republicans do not want to support this. That's creating a huge issue. Now, one thing I want to bring to your attention, because I touched on it just for a second, but the child tax credit payments, let me touch on this really quick. Right now, what we are hearing is that the $3.5 trillion bill is having so many issues because of its size. One of the things that is currently being discussed is to bring the child tax credit payment down. Okay? Bring it down. Instead of 4 years, instead of extend it for 4 years, maybe we extend it for 2 years. And here's the reason behind this. Okay? If we extend it, it's easier to go and extend again in a couple years. Okay? but it would be easier to extend in a couple years if Democrats remain in control of the House and the Senate. The expectation is Democrats will not remain in control of the House and the Senate. That chances are Republicans will get back at least one of them, if not both. So, what they're discussing regarding the child tax credit payments is that needs to be extended now. Janet Yellen wants to make this a permanent fixture because if it's permanent, it makes it very difficult for lawmakers to pretty much pull out a child tax credit payment simply because it's almost like an additional tax on people that don't earn enough money, for lower income earners, for people with children and families. And so it's going to look very bad whoever decides to pull that out later on. So Janet Yellen is saying, let's make that a permanent fixture in the tax code because if it is, it's going to be very difficult and almost impossible to pull out. So it would always be included. So we'll see if that turns into something that's permanent. But the talks right now are, instead of going for 4 years, let's bring it down to about 2 years to make this a little bit easier to fund, to make it less expensive, right? And that would actually get more support. So that's the discussions as of this morning. But let's talk about some COVID news. The CDC said yesterday that they're now urging pregnant women to go and get the vaccine. They say that a total of 161 pregnant women have died due to COVID, and 22 deaths occurred in August alone. Those aren't great numbers. Experts say that you need to consult your physician. Consult your doctor, ask them about the COVID vaccine while you're pregnant. They say that getting your information off Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok is not acceptable. I'll even throw YouTube in there. Getting your diagnosis or whatever off of YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram is not acceptable. And this is what experts are saying. Every single person is different. Talk to somebody that knows your medical history and knows your future goals. If they know these things, they can help you decide for yourself. Again, it's your body, it's your decision. You can do whatever you want with it. Here's the problem. Make sure you're getting some actual, educated advice. Okay? That's all I'm saying. I'm just throwing that out there. Make sure you're getting good, sound, quality advice. If you decide not to get the vaccine because you and your healthcare provider decide, you know what, that's not the best thing for you, great. That is great. You decided that for yourself. If you decide to get the vaccine because you know what, I'm pregnant, I think it's in my best interest, my family's best interest, and my unborn baby's best interest, then great, go get the vaccine, right? But make that decision on your own. But by using science, educating yourself, that's it. Now, I want to talk about Singapore for a second. In Singapore, the Agency for Integrated Care is strongly urging all people ages 60 years of age and older to stay home for the next 4 weeks to protect themselves. And the reason behind this is because they're expecting a surge in cases for seniors, people with weakened immune systems. Now, you're probably thinking, well, I don't live in Singapore. Why does this matter? Here's the reason this matters. Experts are telling us that by looking at other countries, what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, we can better handle our COVID situation. We can better prepare for what is to possibly come and what we may experience in the coming months. So, I don't expect a stay-at-home mandate to come anytime. I think we're done with that. But if you are older, you have a weakened immune system, are not vaccinated, maybe you're pregnant, right? Experts are saying try to limit the time you are around others. Always wear a mask. Make sure you're washing your hands. And just protect yourself. That is it. So, that's what we know right now. But as always, as I know more, I promise I'll be back on later on today to update you on all the latest news and information. Again, thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. Hit that like button if you enjoyed today's video. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.